September 29th, 1789, the first United States Congress adjourns. Ben Franklin famously remarks, I give it 250 years tops.
Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And joining us for the second time for the first time, Olivia Schuyling. So glad to have her. Thank you for being here.
Well, if there's one moral of this podcast, dear listener, it's that history repeats itself, because a few episodes ago, my track got eaten by Audacity, and this time, I fucked up and forgot to start recording. So again, we're starting from scratch. This time we only got like 5 minutes in, okay? We just did like the preamble and shit.
In my head, I was like, do we pretend it didn't happen? And now that's all we're talking about.
It has to be. It has to be. We have to regain the magic, the momentum.
To learn from history, you have to pay attention to it. You gotta actually learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Also,
can't erase it. We're not trying to erase history.
Yeah. The revisionist history of what happened is Brian fucked up? I don't know. No. That's my alt history. You can vote on what actually happened.
No, listeners.
We'll just have to see what they say.
I didn't get to make my case. I also appreciate how it sounded like when you were doing your This Day in History, you were using a little bit of a wizard voice at times.
Yeah, I felt like I should give the London stuff a little flourish.
I mean, that's probably the one we're going to use anyway, so I have no trouble referencing it.
Folks, if you're new to this particular podcast, I'm kind of doing a similar lead-in to what I did last time. I had a great bit last time where it was like my summer vacation essay. I'm not going to repeat that, but it was
but just imagine what it was like.
Boy, it was good.
It was good.
Yeah, it was classic. It would have gone down with like George Carlin's monologue about stuff in the history. Regardless.
Yeah, you're the George Carlin of fake book reports.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah, I started out really goofy, and then I got increasingly bitter to keep up with the times. This summer, I fucking hated Al Qaeda.
Yeah, I think that was actually what I said in 8th grade.
Yeah. Well, it was very popular that year. Regardless, this is a comedy history podcast in which we examine a person or event or place or thing or whatever noun your mind can imagine from history. And and one person gives the true account of the person, place, thing, etc. And another person gives a crazy, absolutely bonkers alternate version that can have cyborgs or Batman, or as I said before, it could be Mamma Mia. It could be Mamma Mia 2.
And really should be Mamma Mia
That's the only
at a
thing
certain
we want.
point, once you realize that possibility.
Well, you know, I was going to say, you know what they say, there's only two kinds of stories, Boy Comes to Town and Mamma Mia, but I think I've made that joke.
Yep, literally on the last episode, when we did that with, I think, RoboCop and Animal House.
Well, you know what they say, there's only three kinds of stories, Animal House, RoboCop, and Mamma Mia. Regardless, at the end of the show...
Which RoboCop is actually kind of a Boy Comes to Town story.
And it's kind of Mamma Mia, too. Who's RoboCop's
Wait,
real
RoboCop
dad?
is Mamma Mia?
Yeah, who's RoboCop's real dad? It could be the corporation. It could be the scientist. It could be Clarence Boddicker.
And
so
he's
all
just
three
trying
of
to
them-
find himself
Yeah.
and get them to the wedding.
Regardless, at the end of the episode, the remaining host votes on what is the history they prefer, and then you, the audience, assuming you pay a small amount of money, also can vote on what becomes the true history of this brilliant blue marble we all live on called the Earth, going forward. Last episode, this is, as I, again, repeating myself.
Just to reiterate.
This is the Taint episode. It's between our...
Oh, no. I feel like you led into that way better last time.
It was kind of an accident last time, and this time I'm like, well, I got to get back there. I always...
How do you get back to the Taint?
Yeah, all roads lead.
These are the questions.
All roads lead to Taint.
Yep, I remember your senior quote as well as anybody.
Yeah, it's the natural centerpiece of the body.
Yeah, it's where all the humor is drained to, I think.
It's the balancing point. A person is perfectly balanced on their taint.
Yeah, of course.
Every single person. It's like a sword, a well-made sword.
It's where the superego resides, I think, according.
It's the window to the soul. I mean.
Yeah, the fastest way to a man's heart. Anyway.
Regardless, next episode, we're going to be starting our spooky, scary Halloween spooktaculars. Mm-hmm. And last time we just finished up our Jack the Ripper miniseries, so we're letting we're putting a little pressure off the spook pedal this time.
Yeah, just a little palate cleanser, I think, before we get back into the spooky scaries.
Now, we don't know who won the Jack the Ripper thing, because that episode hasn't been released yet, the last one.
Mm-hmm. And the voting hasn't even begun yet.
And the voting hasn't begun, but by the time you hear this, you'll probably know. So there's no reason for me to reiterate the winner of that little mini-series. Mm-hmm. Instead, we're going to focus on, and I still don't know how to pronounce this, Julie Daubeny? This is a person, again, I know from history and actually like a lot, but like...
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's just like doing the Porky Pig thing.
It looks like a bad Scrabble board this last
I've
Grabbed
been going...
a handful of letters.
Yeah, exactly. I've been going with Daubeny. That seems right to me.
Daubeny. Daubeny sounds good to me.
Of Aubigny, like a D apostrophe Aubigny.
The famous mnemonic device, Daubeny, sounds good to me.
Yeah, that was the slogan for her line of jellies, actually. That
We'll get into that in due course. And in fact, in short order, because I believe Olivia is telling the true history.
Hey there, this is Brian, reminding you that The Revisionist is supported by listeners just like you. You can make a pledge and get rewards like shirts and even the right to vote over at patreon.com/therevisionists.
Julie Aubigny. So she has, basically the big thing is like she has this reputation with kind of sleeping around with a lot of the fancy man's ladies. But she's best known for being a swordsman and an opera singer. Mm-hmm. She was born in France in 1673. She has a dad, and her dad was this secretary to another a lot of French names. His name was Louis de Lorraine Geiss, and he was a count, and he was also the master of the horse.
Yep.
Which is, he deals
that's like
all horse related.
I feel like now that's a category on porn sites.
Yeah, no, that's
master of the horse. Oh yeah, tame it.
That's definitely someone who MCs at a furry convention. Mm-hmm. I feel like.
Yeah, that's a Mr. Hands situation.
No. I mean, fair.
Yeah, although his folly was that he thought he was the master of the horse and wasn't.
Really, he's like Icarus in that way.
Yeah.
Where he flew too close to the horse. Anyway, I'm editing that out.
Well, he was the master of the horse, and he worked for King Louis XIV. So, they weren't very wealthy or noble or anything. But so she grew up kind of with the pages, and she learned how to sing and to draw and to read and for swordsmaning. So she got that very early on, and she was dressing as a boy just most of her life. She was very androgynous. That's another one of the things that they were talking about a lot. And her dad's boss took her as a mistress when she was 14, which is just so chill and so cool. Very, very chill and cool and natural and fun. Easy breezy fun.
Yeah, I think I think super chill actually comes from the French for
Oh yeah.
really uncomfortable.
So very cool. But then she was just this mistress, and she got married off to this other guy, because you just get tossed around when you're a little youngin.
Yep. Yeah, 17th century France.
Oh yeah.
What a time to be alive.
What a summer! What a summer!
Yeah, there's horses, there's plague, and there's no autonomy.
But yeah, so she ends up running away with this fencing master, Cyrenes.
That's a good name.
That's a cool name,
That's
right?
one of the best names in this thing.
It reminds me of like Cyrano, but
Yeah.
It
you
does.
know.
Yeah, I feel like it's a ripoff. Like his parents saw Cyrano. Like his parents saw Cyrano de Bergerac and were like, well, we can't just call him Cyrano. It's like
We'll spell it
if
different.
somebody nowadays saw the Hunger Games and they were like,
The
"What do you
Hunger
name our
Games?
Hunger Games. Yeah. They saw the Hunger Games.
Yeah, that cereal.
Oh, yeah.
That cereal where you have to kill everyone of your friends. to get whole.
Exactly so.
That's their
Yeah.
slogan.
Right, it's their spin-off. It's in my theme where you slightly change the name. But instead of Katniss, you go with Cat Nose.
Perfect.
Catterness.
Yeah, perfect. That's the Mad Magazine version of the Hunger Games.
It's just gonna be an article, just how to adapt it to whatever the fuck you
Cat
want.
knows ever black.
Language means nothing. But she was running away with Cyrenes, and because he had killed this guy in a duel, and all duels were illegal in Paris, France, all France, just most of France, they were just illegal. So what they would do for money is they would just do fencing demonstrations at fairs and pubs and stuff, and she would sing a lot too during that time. But there was this one guy who didn't believe that she was a woman. And she flashed him when she, because he's like, "You're fencing too good,
Yeah.
obviously. What is this?" And she's like, "Here's my boobies." So, and that's just a checkmate. I think
Yeah.
that's just the way to do it.
There's no real comeback. You can
Right.
go from that. That's graceful.
Once you've shown your tits, that's a very powerful move. That's a power move right there. Yeah, but so she eventually just.
I'm sure that
yeah.
is printed on someone's tank top at
It's
some.
kind of like the LBJ tactic of negotiation.
Yeah, yeah.
But, obviously adapted for women. But like the thing where he would just talk to hostile senators like while he was on the toilet with the door open to throw them off their guard.
What an insane man.
That's crazy.
I mean, he brought us to the Great Society, but still.
Hey, Voting Rights Act, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'll say right here, I'll watch a man take a dump for the Voting Rights Act.
You're a real ally, Zach. I don't know.
That's just the kind of sacrifice
really
I'm
doing
willing
it.
Or, just for whatever.
Anyway, here's my card. I'm the master of horse. Anyway.
No one checks anymore. You could just really very easily be.
Yeah, you can just say you're the master of horse on LinkedIn and no one's going to ask.
They're like, I guess so. Guess he's dresses up all them horsies. But she eventually.
Wait, is the
yeah.
Master of Horse a horse cosplay creator?
He is-
I think later it adaptions.
I mean, their portfolio has expanded at this point.
well,
I think.
it's just become such a large part of so many people's lives.
Really, the founders never envisioned the Master of Horse being so
every
powerful.
parade you're gonna see, they're the ones running it, pulling the strings.
Right. Okay. Go on. I'm sorry to interrupt with horse cosplay.
These are the important things. I think this is what we need to question about. But so she eventually joins the opera company in Marseille, and she gets bored with the fencing master, and she falls in love with this lady, this beautiful woman. But once the parents of the lady that she falls in love with find out that she's in love with the woman, they put her away in a convent. And Julie decides to go to the convent so she can be with her love, but as a nun, kind of.
Yep.
Many setups for varying levels of so Master of Horse feels like some modern day, real deep web hardcore stuff. But this feels like a setup for like early HBO, some late night softcore.
Sexy nuns, that's huge. Sexy lesbian nuns, even better.
Yeah.
And I'm about to eat my words because Julie does not care for traditional, like, sexy gender role shit. She takes matters into her own hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does whatever the fuck she wants. She's like, rules? Fuck them. I'll fuck them too, you know?
Give me some rules. I'll fuck them.
I'll fuck them. Yeah.
I've seen her described as kind of like 14th century France female James Bond, and in some ways that feels right.
That feels very accurate, definitely.
Yeah, no, that sounds.
Yeah,
That's
but
exactly
if like
it.
if he was also bi, you know,
Yeah.
like that's what it is. Like she's just like get that butt and or whatever else you got it going on over here,
The butt and etc.
etc. Butt is a necessity though.
It's a fucking sexual Mad Libs. Gotta have the butt, but option 2, you fill in the blank there, buddy.
Build it.
God, I can picture someone describing themselves as a sexual Mad Lib.
Oh,
That's the new sapiosexual, just in terms
Yeah,
of like.
excuse me while I update my Tinder profile real quick.
take that away.
Okay, I will not tell Shannon.
Yeah, so she's there in the convent doing their thing, and they want to run away, and so they don't really know how to do that. So the thing that they come up with is to steal this dead nun's body, and you know they just have those lying around for however long, whenever anyone needs them.
In
They
case of
just-
emergencies.
Yeah.
At the time, every fourth room you walked into had a dead body in it, I feel like.
Yeah,
Right, they
actually,
collected them on their on Thursdays or whatever.
It was like it was the Glade plugin of its time because it actually made everything around it smell slightly better. We
Keeping
discussed
people
how much
in a
this era
separate
of
dead
history
room.
smells
Yeah.
like shit.
Ugh.
And by this area of history, you mean like almost every era of history.
Yeah, up until they invented like what Febreze, I guess.
At the very least, indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
That's a big one. If you had to have one or the two, it's like they invented Febreze first. They're like, listen, we're not going to actually deal with this. We're just really trying to cover it up. We also have blankets we can put on all this shit.
Quick, someone just like bake cookies and cover up the smell of not having plumbing.
Boy, whenever I don't have plumbing, boy, that's a...
Whenever I don't. have
Whenever, you know, whenever I leave the house. Or...
So I believe Julie had just stolen the body of a dead nun, as you do.
As
As
you
you
do. And so their big idea was to just set it on fire, set the whole house on fire, destroy any evidence, you know, which works, I
Yeah,
guess.
it
That's
works great.
which is actually their Febreze, I guess, back then. Just burn it down. Yeah, so they burn it and they burn the body and they run away and so they only dated for 3 months is what
after that or something.
I think that was the full duration.
Oh,
I
for
think
real?
the full duration. I don't know how quick all this stuff happened, but 3 months and you burn a house down. Well, that's
A nunnery, no less.
a nunnery.
That is at least some 6 month
Easily.
stuff for me.
Easily.
I think.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't
They
start
say-
looking for some dead people that look like my partner until I'm at least a year into the relationship. And then
Yeah.
when they have
We all
something
know.
going down, I'm like, I have 2 bodies that would work for
Yeah.
this.
First, I'll burn
They
down a
also-
convent, then drive to the airport. That's the second thing after that.
2 year is the wood anniversary. 3 year is the nunnery burning anniversary.
You gotta hit it, though. You know, it's sort of really good.
Oh, god damn it.
But yeah, so they like that's what happens. They break up, but she still has to deal with this stuff because, you know, even burning stuff down, you got to deal with that eventually. So she gets charged with kidnapping, body snatching, and arson. And they think that the charge that she gets is death by fire because they're like, fight fire with fire. Just put more fire in here. That's the way we're going to solve this.
Yep. Very literal people.
Very literal.
In the day.
Yeah. They're like, we're gonna steal your body, and but so she, what happens is she convinces her old dad's boss, her old lover, to talk to the king to pardon her, and her big thing was just let me go and I'll just sing in the opera. And I guess her pussy was as good as it seems, cause it worked. They let her off on all counts.
Oh man, oh god.
Yeah.
That was, I appreciated you saying that, but that was unpleasant to hear.
Yeah. And yeah, the rest of her life, she just keeps on singing and fucking and loving and doing her thing.
Yeah.
She dies at the ripe old age of 33, which is as good as anyone could have hoped for back then, I imagine.
Yep.
They say a death cause is unknown, but I'm pretty sure it was just old age. That's what it was.
Exactly.
I've
couldn't be older
heard,
than
like-
Jesus. That was the rule.
I've heard like little stories about her. Like somebody said she was not the best opera singer or not a good opera singer, and she challenged him to a duel. And I think she dueled like multiple guys at the same time
Yep.
and still
I
won.
Yeah,
remember-
there was this one thing that I found, and she's like, she went to a ball and where a lot of beautiful rich people were, and then she ended up kissing this woman who was dating the Grand Dauphine, and yeah. There's 3 guys who challenged her to a duel at that ball, and she won all 3 of them.
Yep. And I think there was one moment I was reading when, like, because dueling, again, super illegal.
So yeah, so she was just like, whatever, I already killed these guys,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. It was just killing,
Yeah.
but
There was
with some rules in between.
You couldn't get wounded, really, that much back in the day. There was, like, a very thin line.
Paper was also illegal. Paper cuts could just take a family down.
They had strict control on paper, actually. You had to get a background check. There was a waiting period.
You had
but-
to have your doctorate before you could even see paper.
That's why I was on sheepskin. But after that, like, incident when she dueled the 3 people, like, the king was so entertained by that he was just like, I'll pardon you for that one. Which is just like...
Entertainment based,
Like-
just like whatever.
And it's been a while since I've read her story, but I thought near the end of her life she settled down and her lover died or left, and then she died shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I think her lover left, but she goes back to the convent afterwards. She was singing for a while, and then she goes back to the convent and dies there. So I don't know.
They let her
maybe,
back.
Yeah.
They had rebuilt.
They were like, you're on a short leash, Missy.
We had our 86 list here, but it burned up in a fire.
We don't have any of our files, so we don't know.
Get in here, you nut. And that's
And that's the story of Julie Daubeny.
Julie Dauber from Coach, I believe.
Dobbin. Yeah, Daubeny
Daubeny.
sounds good to me. And you know what else would sound good to me? An alternate version of that story.
Fuck off.
Every week, Denver's own Real Nerds podcast sees a new movie and we podcast our experience to the world.
I think sometimes we're funny.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm talking, not when you're talking, not when you're talking.
Oh,
You know, it might help if you told them that we're on iTunes or we're on Stitcher so they could find a place there you can actually listen to us.
Oh, okay, Brad. We're also on Twitter at Real Nerds, and we have an Instagram account. Boom. Commercial, Brad. Cut, paste, upload. We like to have fun.
Sure. I like fun.
James, you're very bad at improv. RealNerdsPodcast.com.
Something a lot of people say about Julie Daubeny was that she was born with a sword in her hand, which is literally true. She had an early version of the X gene.
That sounds like a very painful delivery for the mother.
See, you'd think that, but it was actually a very cost-effective C-section.
Oh, okay.
And
She initiated it.
yeah, exactly.
She induced it.
Really, yeah, it was her choice. Her Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So I mean, a lot of her life story is the same. There's just certain things we don't really know that much about that don't get highlighted too much. She did tend to dress in what was typically considered men's clothing. She was also one of the first drag kings, really, to come to prominence.
Yes.
she first gained people's attention competing in the French stage show RuPaul's Horse Race, along with other drag kings and queens such as Ben de la Creme Puff, Jujubee, and Aix-en-Provence Thunderfuck. That's a deep cut for Drag Race fans. I don't know, whatever. So she got a day job in the opera, but her real passion was stabbing. That was what she really enjoyed doing. She even she recorded a lot of opera albums and tracks, put them out on her SoundCloud. But she recorded a passion project called Sounds of Stabbing, which was not a big hit. It was very unsettling.
Just a soundboard.
Yeah.
Just like, this is what it sounds like with a long sword, a broadsword.
Yeah, it was mainly spooky sound effects, actually. That was the B-side.
A katana.
Yeah, people later cut some of the stab sound effects and worked them into prank phone calls on a soundboard.
Yeah,
Not a very effective means of prank calling.
yeah, Le Jerky Boys, I think was the people who did that.
The original.
And you hear a lot about like her well-known mainstream stabbings, but she had a lot of like early underground stabbings that you don't hear about.
Literally or
Well,
figuratively?
Once she was exploring the Paris catacombs.
Oh, okay. Literally.
So both. She was trying to score some X, and a dude came up to her and tried to steal her croissants. So she
had on her all the time.
Yep. Oh, that's like at that point in history, that was really one of the major
Day
crimes.
one France stuff. Yeah.
You were naked if you left the apartment without your croissant bandolier.
So this chud comes up and tries to steal her croissants, and she breaks off a rib from a nearby skeleton and stabs him in the heart. And then she says something snappy like, "It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Thieve." Editing that out. And then another time. She was tunneling under the walls of a monastery for a party where there was rumored to be clean water, which did not happen much at the time.
Yeah, so it was like really exciting. It's
yeah,
like when you're in high school and someone gets a keg.
Yeah, or like a chocolate fountain. I guess
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I have to
went
ask.
to weird parties.
At this point, Julie is hoarding old bread and tunneling under the ground. Is she some kind of common vermin or pest?
No, she just likes to party.
Okay.
It's what she do.
Yeah, I mean, I basically do those things anyway. So
Basing your life.
yeah, probably more with the hoarding old bread, less with the tunneling, but a little bit still.
It
probably.
feels similar. It feels similar.
Metaphorically, my entire life feels like I'm just digging
Usually
a hole
with
and
some
crawling
hoarding,
through it.
there's some tunneling too.
So while she's tunneling, she encounters a race of mole men. She's the first person to encounter the mole men. She dates one of them for a couple months, and then stabs him because he doesn't understand what the sun does.
That's a good reason to stab somebody, by the way. One of the top 5 reasons that stabbings occur every day.
Stealing croissants, doesn't understand the sun.
I think that's the... Yeah, I think OJ's lawyers used that one to get him off.
Oh, Jesus
Best
Christ.
defense.
So there was a period near the end of her life when she kind of dropped off the radar a little bit, and people assume she just sort of like went back to the convent or like settled down with her husband, who she was married to the whole time. But what actually happened is she started living below the Paris Opera House. Singing there was a young countertenor named Andrew Lloyd Webber, just waiting for his big break to come along. One day during rehearsal for the opera Hannibal, The lead countertenor, a man named Lloyd Andrews Webb, gets mysteriously stabbed, and Andrew Lloyd Webber, his understudy, has to step in. And people don't assume much about him, but what they don't know is that Andrew Lloyd Webber has been taking lessons from someone he calls the Angel of Music, just underground in the Paris Opera House.
Back to the underground.
Yeah, just back to she loves the underground. Not that this is her, necessarily. Fuck. So Andrew Lloyd Webber is also sort of involved with Madame Raoul, and then Julie Daubigny appears and stabs them both because they sort of freak out because she's wearing a weird half mask just because fuck it,
Right.
she wants to. Then they sing Music of the Night. Julie Daubigny writes the greatest musical of all time called Opera Ghost!
There's a movie adaptation that inexplicably stars Gerard Butler. Who knows why?
Yeah. Well, actually, Opera Ghost never saw the light of day. Julie Daubigny did spend the rest of the night sort of stabbing at a chandelier. Opera Ghost! Only sort of comes out later when a man named Andrew Lloyd Webber VII gets his revenge by turning it into sort of a mediocre Broadway musical. And that's some of the alternate facts about the life.
Named incidentally off of a book that had existed for 50 years prior to the release of the musical.
Yeah, that was actually pure coincidence.
Okay.
It turns out. Because people
Parallel
don't...
thought,
Yeah, I couldn't incorporate the author of the fucking book because people don't know who he is.
Right.
And any chance to make fun of Andrew Lloyd Webber is also my bad.
Recent EGOT winner.
Classic.
We're punching up at recent EGOT winner Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Wait, recent? I thought... When did he get it?
No, he just got it. He just closed up that bag.
Really?
I don't know. Jesus Christ Superstar, maybe? I think that TV version just got him his Emmy finally.
Oh.
Boy.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, congratulations, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Well, yeah,
Still don't
he's
care for your
we'll
bullshit.
send it, right on over to him.
Anything other than Jesus Christ Superstar. Maybe
You're no
Joseph.
Sondheim, Weber.
Yeah, no Sondheim. I didn't mean for this to turn into the roast of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Which is why Comedy Central is really scraping the bottom of the roast barrel.
Oh yeah, they're just
I mean-
whoever's done anything, we'll just grab you.
They've always been scraping
Yeah.
the bottom of the roast. Frankly, Andrew Lloyd Webber would be a huge get at this point.
Yeah, they'll probably do that before they do the roast of the corpse of Greg Giraldo. Before we move on to judgment and plugs and all the fun stuff that you definitely stick around to the end of the podcast to listen for, I want to mention that The Revisionist is a proud member of the Denver Podcast Network, alongside such shows as Denver Orbit, which is an audio magazine, which has pieces from all sorts of different creators around Denver, and recently won the Westward Award for Best Podcast. It's an amazing show, so check out Denver Orbit. Listeners, we also ask that you be so kind as to write a review of this here little humdinger of a podcast on your podcast service of choice. Be that iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, what have you. Written reviews
Are superior.
Yes, they definitely help get more attention to the podcast. I don't know how the fuck the algorithm works. Also, you can reach out to us and leave us a comment, ask us a question, write us a letter via revisionistpodcast.com, or get a hold of us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Olivia, you're a stand-up around Denver, and you're
Yeah.
great. What's a good place, social media-wise, people can find you?
I don't really have much. Honestly, my Facebook just got all clogged up. Apparently, I have too many friends. It's just because I don't filter. I just whoever
Yeah.
has mutual friends. So I got to go back out in there, comb it, so I can fill it right back on up with
Just
your
hearing
happy.
you say that that's what your Facebook is like. I'm getting an anxiety attack just imagining that.
It's fun. I don't know. I like the energy. I like the strangers. It's kind of like sitting in a coffee shop where I don't know a lot of these people, but I can hear a lot of what they're thinking.
Oh no, okay, yeah. I admire your ability to be okay with that.
Like the noise.
But Olivia's great, and whenever you can get a chance, go see her. As for me, the next edition of Queen City Companion, the All Falls storytelling show I co-host with Jen Colick, will be October 4th at Mutiny Information Cafe. So come check that out. We have a great lineup shaping up for that. And the first Know Your Shit has not happened yet. It'll be happening tomorrow night. So assuming there's a second one, that'll be October 20th at Comedy Room Room. It's comedians giving TED Talks. And the theme for that one will be monsters, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So come check that out. And Zach, this is probably our last chance to get people registered to vote.
While I will still mention this in the Shocktober episodes, if by the time this episode is released, you are not registered to vote or haven't checked on your registration because some less good states purge the rolls occasionally. So
it seemed like you were trying to be more diplomatic about that at first, and then you just went with the least diplomatic thing.
I'm sure they have other good qualities, but politically that's a fucked up thing to do.
Yeah, no. And they have
but-
no other good qualities.
Yeah, well, so make sure you're registered where you live, double check your registration, and if you aren't registered where you live, this is probably your last, in terms of when these episodes come out, by the time the next one comes out, in most states, it'll be too late. It'll be too late to register for this election.
And are those the bad states or the good states?
I think
almost
states-
every state.
Most.
There's only
I-
a couple states where almost every state requires you to register at least a month in advance of the election.
I feel like there are a couple that have same-day registration.
A few.
But-
But the majority of states,
Yeah.
including Colorado, I believe, require you to register a month in advance.
Yes, indeed.
So if you have it registered by the time this comes out, just do it immediately. In Colorado, for instance, you can do it online, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
You could go to, say, Vote Save America has links to every place you can get registered. It has sample ballots in a lot of states, so that's a convenient and easy way. Sometimes it might be able to tell you your polling place if it's been announced yet. But like I say, if you haven't registered yet, this is your last chance, and this is a somewhat important election, I would dare say.
Yes. Oh, Jesus Christ. And I would just say also, if you feel like you're registered to vote, or if you feel like you have time to register to vote, there's no drawback to just checking on it now, or doing it now.
Yeah.
Then
Having
you
it in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. You have a whole month to just
What are you
while
doing
away
right
the
now?
hours.
You're going to listen to this podcast, you're going to go home and get drunk and watch the new BoJack Horseman? Check on your laptop.
That sounds that sounds right.
Oh my god, yeah.
That sounds for most of our listener base probably is into that.
That sounds great.
But Zach, thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Olivia, thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's one more thing.
Oh.
I have to rend my
fuck.
judgment from the gods.
I completely forgot we were back to doing Judgment after the
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper episodes.
Here's the thing. I like the story of Julie Daubigny a lot.
Yeah. It
She's
sounded,
a cool,
it sounded like
like-
someone stepped on your toe as you finished
Like
saying it.
me.
She's a cool swashbuckling opera lady who, stabs the patriarchy or whatever. It's great. But here's the thing. There's a dark spot in her story, and that is, I feel like it's got kind of a sad little ending where she dies young and kind of heartbroken. Brian, I feel like, had one of those stories that doesn't change the original so much as add to it. And in this case, I feel like that change where instead of becoming an actually sad case of a person who is listless and dies young because of heartbreak, they become an angst monster that lives underneath an opera house. I think that's more befitting the spirit of what she was in life. And so for that reason, I think this time I'm going to vote for the alt history, which gives her a more satisfying ending, I think, in my opinion.
Well, listeners, voting is now open for you on our Patreon because we're back to paying for the right to vote now after the Jack the Ripper. Didn't you enjoy that taste of democracy, listeners? If you did, give us money. I might cut that out. That was a little harsh. But for everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a good time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.